So this past weekend, I did the Merrimack Gravel 100 or 22 is what they're calling it for the year. So this was a 110-mile gravel ride. And when it got pitched to me by Zach Gass, one of the guys I did the ride with, he was like, it's a 100-mile ride, 4,500 feet of climbing. And I was like, I'm open on the schedule. We'll just go dive into that adventure and challenge. And I feel prepared enough for it. And if not, we'll see what we learn. And that's kind of one of the reasons to do it. And so as we keep getting closer to it and I've signed up for it, the more information we keep getting is like, there's more climbing than we expected. It's 110 miles now, and it's gonna be 7,000 feet of elevation. So as we show up and we find out that that day I ended up doing 10,300 or so feet of elevation, 110 miles and 9.5 hours of ride time. It was a cool day. First half of the ride, I felt pretty strong and was riding with the group, riding with a bunch of people who were also doing the 100s and 50s and things like that. And then at the 52-mile marker, there was a first real big sag station that I knew I needed to stop, get some lunch, refuel, fill up all my water bottles. I mean, I'm carrying 3 bottles on my bike, and then I had a Camelback on my back with 1.5 liters in it. And I'm filling all of these with calories. Drink product that's got 400 calories a bottle, anything I can do to fuel. Now it's gotten hot at this point in the day. My legs are already starting to cramp. So I'm kind of feeling nervous about the second half of the day and really what I have left, plus with the elevation. Like I've already started doing a couple things. One is like, is it safe for me to continue? Which is such an interesting thing to lie to myself about. Like, what if I get cramped up and I can't get off the track and then I'm a liability and there's a problem for other people? Like, I'll run that whole catastrophic failure scenario in my head and try to use it as an out for when I know I'm scared to continue on. The other part was I struggled with my computer not having the route downloaded to it. It's like it got parts of the route. I just didn't have any of the turn-by-turn directions. In fairness, they did a really good job of marking the course. There was like blue spray paint on each of the turns, and my computer did have some of the route. So like if I ever went the wrong direction, about 100 yards or so in, it would just start yelling at me and then I'd flip around. But man, I specifically remember stopping about a mile after that 50-mile sag station, trying to get my computer to work, trying to get the route to log in, and I can't get it. And I really have a minute there of like, I should probably call it. Like, I don't know what water's left. I don't know what I'll have. I'm running out of water now. I'm already cramping. And if I'm this bad at 50, how bad will I be at 100? And how bad will I be at 110? And I ended up not taking the out, not quitting, not going back. And I just kind of had that point decided that let's go on until there's a problem. Let's wait until there's a thing we genuinely can't solve and we can't continue. Because look, worst case scenario, if I can't find my way, right, I can just use my phone to get back to a place. I also have some money on me. Like I can get a ride from someone. I could figure it out, despite that I'm trying to lie to myself of why I should probably quit, when I'm just scared of the effort and whether or not I'll fail. And so I kind of continued on, and then my intention changed a lot from what I wanted to do with the ride of this test for myself. And then it became very much of why am I doing this? Why am I doing the Katy Trail? Why am I pursuing this? And it's, I want to figure out which one will give up first. Will my body give up and I'm training to do a thing? Or will my brain give up and give me an out to quit? As long as I can still pedal, as long as I can still make progress, as long as I can get off the bike and walk and let my legs chill for a little bit, I want to continue until I can't. I know myself well enough at this point that I won't continue into a dangerous situation. Like I'm not gonna get hurt, I'm not gonna dehydrate myself and get in trouble that way. I'm not gonna do any of that. But physically, my legs not being able to continue, like I'll know where that point is, and I never got there. Another big lesson I learned was that after the 50 miles, things never really got worse. They didn't get much better. They didn't get better at all. But I could also walk up hills instead of cramping and ride down and figure out a strategy to get to the finish line. Not get to the finish line with some expectation of how I should look as a rider and a cyclist, and this isn't competitive and it's embarrassing that I'm walking up all the hills, but with the intention of which one will quit first. I'm in a safe way to test that and test myself. And so I continued on with that mentality of like, let's just handle the next hill. What's the next problem? What's the next thing I have to solve to get closer to the finish line? Do I need food? Do I need more water? I had to stop at a stranger's house and ask, to get water from, which is a really interesting story. I stopped, I saw a kid in his yard, and I asked him if I could fill up water from their spigot. He's like, I have to go ask my dad. His dad comes out, he's a big dude, tells me he used to power lift and is training his kids, and he's training a couple dudes down the road. And I was like, oh, you know, I did strength sports for a while because clearly I don't look like a cyclist. And he's like, oh, that's great, you know, blah, blah. I told him I did some powerlifting, I did some Highland Games. Come to find out, this guy's been following me for years, like back when I was doing the Highland Games, and now he's got a dozen kids or so running around that he's coaching. And it was cool to connect like that, and like what a rad little piece the universe gave. And so that was like at mile 75 that I got fresh water and I got this complete refill of stoke, hearing this guy pump. Seeing that I was doing something different, getting to chat with him, and kind of remembering that I do get to connect with people. I get to share this story, I get to inspire, and I get to learn more about myself in that whole process. And so when I left from there, I just had this overwhelming sense of gratitude the rest of the day. That showed up for me a lot during the Bryce Canyon. It was really cool that I just had this immense thank you to my body, to my legs, to my heart, to my lungs, to my mind. You know, these things that I've been really frustrated with in the past because they failed me competing, and I was really angry at my body for a long time for falling fucking apart. Meanwhile, I was falling apart up here too, not knowing what to do and how to pursue things and how to manage things I need to be happy. Like I need pursuits. And so having this moment of such gratitude for my brain for needing pursuits, because that's what's part of made me great. For my legs for being willing to show up and train and do different things and always kind of be ready to go as long as I'm asking them to do stuff they can still do. Having gratitude for my heart for beating, for being alive, and my lungs for giving me air. Just this overwhelming sense of like, we're fine. We're fine, like we are good to go. We're not as bad as it was. And I'd come out of whatever, I don't know if it's safe to finish. So as I wrapped the day and I finished all the way through, I was really fucking proud and I was spent. I came in dead last of anyone who did the 100-miler by almost 90 minutes. Having people hang around late for you, that's the move. But I didn't go into it with a competition. I went into it to know more about me, to push myself in a way that I'd never been pushed before. This was a day that brought me a ride that was 30 miles bigger than anything I've ever done before, and about 6,000 extra feet of climbing than I've ever done in a single day before, as well as the 9.5 hours of sitting in the saddle. So there's a ton of confidence now going into the rest of the training for the Katy Trail that came from this test. And pass or fail, it gave me an opportunity to check on a lot of things that as of thus far are kind of in theory. Like, I think I can hydrate. I think I can fuel myself. I think I can control my ego to pedal at a pace that gets us to the finish line and not burned out now. I can manage all of those things to accomplish the big goal at hand. And that translates from that to wanting to accomplish anything with my business or wanting to accomplish anything with the content we capture. It's a long process, and we just have to stick to doing the next task the best we can, and then we'll deal with the next thing going forward. But learning everything I did with all of the hydration and what I can do and bike setup, I feel really good going into the rest of this training. Even still at 9.5 hours, that's probably half the time it's gonna take me to do the full Katy with Hannah. Whew. Me and that bike got a lot more time together, but I'm really excited with how it performed. And I'm very proud of how I performed doing my first kind of gravel event. I've never done anything like it. And like the Bryce Canyon thing, it was fun. I liked that I got to spend most of it by myself though. Like I really like the idea of going out and attacking one of these things and having all the time of solitude, but there's people out there providing me water and other stuff along the way. It makes that part really rad to where I don't have to pack a bunch of extra stuff with me. Just eliminates one of those other roadblocks that I'll give myself of why not to try it and why not to do it. If you haven't ever done anything like this, it's great. Like they had a 10 mile, a 25 mile, a 50 and 100. And a lot of these events put you in a chance to meet community. They put you in a chance to meet people that are doing hard things for no other reason than what happens. The fulfillment of it, the present sense that you get of just being involved in a thing for that long with a singular focus and task of just move ahead, figure the next problem out, solve it. It just makes the other bullshit problems in my life a lot easier to deal with. And I love that that's something that I can get by taking physical action at a thing, and it always has been. if anything else with the channel, the riding, like I'm not trying to inspire people to want to cycle more or do anything specific. I just want to inspire people to take action and do things that challenge you, do things that push your limitations. Otherwise, life is going to challenge you. Life is going to show up and be at the attack instead of you making a plan to try hard things in a safe way so that when hard things show up, you know how that you react. You know how to handle the stress. You don't just crumble into a fucking ball of anxiety and wait to be saved. Eliminating a lot of those factors comes through experience and exposure. And being able to get out there and try it yourself and realize it's not as dangerous as I was, or the catastrophic failure I had built in my head isn't true, or that I need to quit because this lie and I have valid reasons and all this other bullshit, or what would I be thought of, or how does people think about me finishing dead last? Like, none of it matters. The part that matters is that you're doing something that's really hard to find out more about yourself. To find out those limitations and are they real, and do you have to listen to that voice in your head? Because the other voice that says let's fucking go is still there. Thank you guys for following the training thus far. The 110 miles was great. Thanks to both the Zacks for being part of it. I'm really looking forward to the 120 mile ride I've got coming up with Charlie. So back to training.